welcome back. It's Josh with the Financial Advisor Car Guy. Today I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update on the 68 convertible behind me here. Last we looked at it, I had just received the fiberglass fastback roof and was planning to get it off to paint and have it back by now. A little bit of a snafu getting that all dialed in, and let's walk around and take a look at it here. So part of the deal was I needed to take the top over to my guy who painted the car so that he could paint the roof to match. As you see here, this is just the soft top resting on top of there. I still need to install that. I have a brand new retractable frame for the convertible top, but I haven't had a chance to get the top actually on. I need to do it on a hot summer day out in the sun where I can pull and stretch and get that nice and tight. And so it's just been kind of stored. I wanted to get the wrinkles out, so I laid it across the top of this fiberglass roof. Now, I did want to have it painted and returned to me by now, and that didn't work out the way I wanted. For really the real reason is because I couldn't drive the car over to him. I'll kind of explain that in just a second. But initially, when I ordered this top, he had told me that I could just drop it off, he'd paint it, return it, and I could get the car operating kind of at my convenience. But the way it worked out was he wanted to have the car in the bay with the roof so that he could measure up and line up all the lines and make sure everything was perfect. Yeah, and he wanted to get it all installed at once, and that way he can get all the hardware and the glass and everything, the scoops molded on and everything all at once. So when I get the car back, it is gonna look like a fastback. So the reason that I couldn't get it over to him was because the car is not running. And when I say it's not running, I don't mean that I can't start the car. It does start, it does run. It just won't drive right now. Part of the problem is the transmission. And I'm not exactly sure what the deal is with the transmission. I bought it used on Craigslist, and it had been probably pretty heavily abused. Now, it did work. I was able to drive it around town the last couple of years. Let's get the hood popped here. Without pinching my fingers. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So the transmission had been used and I put it in here. It did work. It got me around town on and off for the last couple of years. But casually driving it to and from my work, I was getting a terrible transmission fluid leak. I had a leak all over my garage floor. It dripped at stop signs and stoplights, and I was forever checking the fluid. It was leaking from numerous spots, and it never really shifted that well. So around town was completely fine, keeping it in low gears, driving on the back roads and things, never really getting above 30 miles an hour. The thing was fine, but it just seemed to stay in gear way too long and wasn't shifting very well. So I knew from the beginning this transmission needed to be overhauled. Now, forgive the dirty engine bay. It's been sitting all winter and I haven't really done anything with it. And so, yeah, that's how it looks. But I did get ready to order a transmission. I crawled under the car and wrote down all the numbers and everything for the transmission. So I'm gonna order a new one. A local shop can rebuild this thing. It's got a Ford AOD in it out of a 1991 Ford Mustang GT. But the rebuild quote was about $300 more than ordering a rebuilt one and having it shipped to me. And the other benefit of ordering one is that I can have it in as little as a week, whereas the shop to rebuild is backed out about 2 months. So I'm gonna go ahead and order that transmission as soon as I hear back from the seller. And that should be pretty great. Looking forward to that. Then once the transmission is in the car, I can then drive it over to the body shop where we can get the top fixed and painted and done, which is gonna be awesome. The other thing I did over the weekend was back under the motor here. Let's take a look. I did hide a bunch of the wiring in a cool flex loom. You can kind of see it right in here. I had just all these wires kind of bundled and sort of pinned up to the side, but it always looked pretty sloppy. So this is a much cleaner approach and it looks really, really nice. I'm really pleased with it. I was also able to tuck it here underneath this guy here in front of the radiator. So while it sat over the winter, it did collect a nice layer of dust, which I'm sure you can kind of see kind of up here on the fender. And a part of this is wiped away because I was leaning into the bay to loom those wires. But, you know, while it was parked for the winter, while it was collecting dust, the battery in here died and it was dead. I mean, I'd put it on the trickle charger and the rapid charger on every setting, nothing would take. The thing was just completely dead and beyond salvaging. So I did yesterday go and buy a brand new battery and popped it in here. And unfortunately, it does have some old gas in it because it's been sitting since last fall, the last time I drove it, other than starting it to back it up onto the lift 3 months ago. So I'm going to go ahead and start it for you guys now. And then I'll do a quick, you know, walk to the front so you can see the engine, and then walk to the back so you can kind of hear the exhaust. So let's go ahead and do this. And again, it is dirty, so bear with me. So there we go, fires right up. Sounds pretty great. And then here we go, we'll take a walk around front. And there she is. You'll notice that the power steering pump is not hooked up, and so it is currently bypassed. And part of that was because the bearings inside that pulley stripped out, and so that thing got all screwed up, and so the power steering is not currently hooked up. And then here, as we walk around the back, I'll give you a listen to the exhaust. So again, pretty good sounding car. I'm pretty pleased with all the things and how they came together. And so, yeah, pretty great. I'll go ahead and shut her down. All right, so as far as the interior of this car, it is somewhat stock looking for a 68. I did do the wood grain dash, and part of that is because that is the way these Shelbys came from the factory. I also did put a more vintagey looking radio in there. It's got a fold down face for CDs behind there, and it does have USB and auxiliary available for an iPad or an iPod or whatever else your heart desires. It is an automatic, which is probably the one thing I'd go back and do differently. And then I found a replica steering wheel that I think looks pretty sharp. If I pop out of here, you'll see the racing buckets aren't so racing style, but this is more of a vintage pro car seat, which I like. They're pretty comfy and they don't weigh very much. So, you know, they're easy to get in and out of the car should they need to be. And then of course the door cards and all the doors were rebuilt and are looking fresh and new. So anyway, the car has been, I guess, almost a 10-year restoration that's still not quite done. It's presentable and drivable and all those things, but getting, you know, the top done and that new fiberglass top done, and then just working out some little wiring kinks and things here and there. The car has come together really, really well, and I'm very pleased. There's not a lot I would change, but, you know, long term, I'd love to get a 428 for this thing. That would make it a lot more period correct. You know, little details here and there. I've got the Shelby fender tag there with my VIN, with the car's VIN on there. It's not a real Shelby VIN number, but, you know, and then of course, suspension work. I'd really like to lower the car about an inch. I think it sits a little high. The back sits okay. The front's a little higher than I'd really like. And so, you know, with time and just really time, I think is what it is that I need more of. But we'll get this thing dialed in, and hopefully I can start driving it once that new transmission's in, and then can just sort of work out some of the kinks. So I wanted to keep it somewhat short and sweet today, but I did want to kind of give you an update and a walk around on the car and kind of let you know where we're at. If you have any questions or anything about the car, please comment down below. Like always, like and subscribe. And remember, may every investment you make be a good one. Till next time.